Hey guys, I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. So today I have my March wrap up for you guys. So in March I read a total of 7 books, I DNF'd another book, and then I read 1 graphic novel and 1 manga. Over those 7 books I read 2,809 pages. I think I'll start off actually with the graphic novel and the manga I read. The physical manga that I read was Bloom Into You. Now this is a female romance. We follow Yu and she is a freshman in high school. She doesn't think that she can fall in love with anyone. She has never had someone that she finds special, and she meets a senpai who seems to have the same kind of feelings that she has. Lo and behold, this senpai ends up falling in love with Yu, and this story is about this senpai falling in love for the first time and Yu kind of trying to deal with this female romance that is blooming. I did enjoy this, but because of how blonde Yu is, it was just very hard to read. She doesn't have much of personality. It was still really cute. I really did enjoy the art style for this. It was really sweet, but I'm not in a rush to pick up the 2nd volume of this series. And then the 1 graphic novel that I read this month was Snot Girl Volume 1. This was so much fun to read. This is by the creators of Scott Pilgrim and it is gorgeous on the inside. This is my first time this is my first time reading a graphic novel in ages and I had a lot of fun. So Snot Girl follows Lottie and she is a fashion blogger, but she has severe allergies, and so she has to hide these severe allergies from the world. So inside her apartment persona is totally different from the persona that she shows to the world, and it's kind of about her day-to-day life. And I really want to pick up the 2nd one, but you know, I picked up this one because it was $5 and the rest of them are like $13, and honestly, like, they're just, to me, I'd rather buy a full novel for $13 than, like, you know, it's just preferences. The book that I DNF'd this month was Never Contented Things, and if you watch my reading vlog, you will see that it just was not my book. The cover, first off, is very deceiving. Do not judge this book by its cover, or you will be sorely disappointed, because it comes off as a fae book, and it is not. It has slight fae aspects to it because the 2 main characters end up in a parallel world that is ruled by these fae, but otherwise the fae aspect really just is not that large. In my opinion, this book, it follows 2 foster siblings, Josh and Kez. Josh is 16 and Kez is turning 18 in a week. And once Kez turns 18, her foster parents say that she has to leave and go to a group home and join community college far away from where they live, because she does not want her to be influencing Josh any more than she already is, because Josh is very infatuated with Kez and is completely just in love with her. And this love that he has for Kez leads him to bring her to a parallel world where they can be together and kind of have like a relationship and not be looked down upon by everyone else who thinks that their relationship that they have with one another is wrong, or like, in my sense, like, it comes off kind of incestual. Like, they almost have sex at one stage, and that like really threw me off. Like, I felt very uncomfortable reading about that almost sex scene. It just, after I read that, I pretty much had to DNF it. I was just, it's just not my cup of tea. It's just not something that I feel comfortable with. If that's something that you're okay with, go for it. I thought that the book had a lot of potential, but not the potential for me. The main characters have very big queer reps. So Josh is pansexual and Kez is androgynous and bisexual. And then we also have a 3rd character that I only vaguely met before I DNF'd, and that's Lexi, and it's hinted at that she's also bisexual. And so this book kind of just follows the emotionally abusive relationship that's kind of going on between Kez and Josh, and Kez kind of realizing that she's not as infatuated with Josh as he is with her, and them kind of dealing with that, and Kez being trapped in this parallel universe. It was just a very messy book, and it just was not for me. The 3 out of 5 star read that I read this month was quite sad that it was 3 out of 5 stars, but it's fine, it happens, and that is Enchantee by Gita Trelease. This is a very fun book. It's set in 1879 in Paris, and this is when we have Marie Antoinette, and it's right before the fall of Bastille. Actually, the fall of Bastille happens in this book, which I actually really appreciated as someone who studied French for years. I really enjoy the aspect of seeing how all the different class levels were dealing during this time. Smallpox is very prevalent as well in Paris. Camille, our main character, her parents passed away the year prior to when this novel takes place from smallpox, and Camille is now left looking after her younger sister Sophie and using la magie ordinaire, which is this kind of magic that she has in which she can take a piece of scrap metal and turn it into money, and that's kind of how her and her sister have been getting by, because her older brother Alain is constantly gambling and is an alcoholic and spends all their money and is just a horrible human being and deserves to be thrown off a balcony in the streets of Paris to land in the filth. She learns that her, like, la magie ordinaire can actually turn cards. If you ever play the game 21, that is technically what she tends to gamble, and so she turns the cards so that she's always able to get 21, which is 21 in French. And from there, she decides to go off to the Palace of Versailles, and there are a lot higher stakes in the court with gambling. And so she pretends to be a baroness by using this magical dress, which kind of transforms her whole appearance. She starts learning that her magic is very dangerous and that it's taking a toll on her, and slowly it is eating away at her. So it's a very interesting book. My biggest issue with it was that it just never lived up to the hype, like, within the story. It felt like you were constantly going up a roller coaster and it was getting interesting, and then it kind of just was like, like you never were like, woo! Roller coasters are my favorite analogy if you have not realized. But yeah, it was constantly just like, oh, okay, this is getting interesting, and then it would just go to some different plot point and you were like, okay. It just never built up to anything, and that was a big letdown for me. And it was such a descriptive book, but it got to the point where it was just way too descriptive, and I got kind of sick of it all and found myself skimming the pages. And when you start skimming pages of books, you kind of know that it's just okay. I really did love being set in Paris. I thought that was really fun, but otherwise the story just had so much potential and it just did not live up to it. The next book that I rated was a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and that is Snow Like Ashes by Sara Raasch. I am going to try and explain this differently than I was originally planning to, because this is a very, very difficult book to explain in my opinion. So we had the 4 kingdoms of seasons. We have summer, autumn, winter, and spring. And these images are the different conduits of magic that they can use. So as you can see, winter has a locket, and so this locket is what gives them power. Here we have these mountains, and this is where all magic comes from. And then over, where is it? Yeah, over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 kingdoms of rhyme. And these are kind of more human kingdoms, since they're so far away from this mountain. They have all 4 seasons, so they're kind of more normal, whereas these are like much different. Yeah, that was definitely a better way of explaining that. So that's kind of how the world is set up. But 16 years ago, spring invaded winter and completely just massacred everyone, and then also enslaved a lot of the Wintarians, and only 24 of them managed to escape, including Mira and her best friend Matha, who is the king of winter. Only 8 of them are left from the original 24, and for the last 16 years they have been trying to get the locket back from spring. Things obviously go very wrong. They end up having to enlist help from one of the neighboring rhyme kingdoms, Cordel. And it was only at that point in the book, around 160 pages in, I want to say, when they go to Cordel, that the book really picked up. The first 150 pages was a lot of background and kind of explaining how this world works, because it is a very intricate system and it can get very confusing, and because of that it just wasn't that intriguing in the beginning. But once they get to Cordel, I adored it, mostly because that is when a love triangle begins. And the love triangle in this book was amazing. I'm normally not one for love triangles, but this one was done phenomenally. I loved both the love interests, and I definitely think that this book is definitely setting up for the next 2 in the series, and I think that those books will be a lot better in quality. But yeah, overall I really did enjoy this book, and I cannot wait to continue on throughout the series. There was a plot reveal in this that I really did enjoy. Kind of cliched, but I'm someone who doesn't mind that if it's done right, and I thought that this was done in a very nice way, so I liked it. The next book was a 3.75. I know, I could not decide between a 3.5 or a 4-star. And that book is Sometimes I Lie. I really did enjoy this. I listened to an audiobook. It's coming out as some kind of like a web series or short TV series with Reese Witherspoon, and that makes me really excited for it. This book is about a woman, and it's set in 3 different timelines: then, before, and now. Now is when Amber wakes up in a coma. She's not like woken up from the coma, like she's still in the coma, but she's mentally awake. Then we have Then, which was 1 week before she ended up in the car accident that landed her in a coma. And then we have Before, which is when she was 11 years old. It's kind of interesting because the entire time we're kind of wondering why you're seeing her point of view when she was 11 years old. And around the 60% mark is when I found this book got really interesting, because you started finding out a lot of different things, especially why you're following this 11-year-old timeline. And wow, that reveal shocked me. I did not see that coming as to like why that was what it was. In the beginning, she starts off by saying, 1, I'm in a coma, 2, my husband doesn't love me anymore, and 3, sometimes I lie. And she is such an unreliable narrator. The way that she perceives the world is so different from everything else, and she doesn't tell you, like the reader, what's the truth and what's really going on. She just does things and you don't understand why, and then later on it's revealed why she's doing all these different things, and you're just like, oh my god, what? I loved that aspect of it. The entire time I was just like, what the hell is going on? There is a trigger warning in here, by the way, for sexual assault. There is a rape scene in here. It is vivid, just so you guys are aware of that. There's a trigger warning. My biggest issue was because she was such an unreliable narrator, I got so flippin' confused the entire time I was reading, like listening to this. By the end of the book, and all like everything kind of came full circle, I was so confused. I actually had to go online and go onto like different forums to be like, what happened? Like, what? There's this one line that happens in the 11-year-old point of view towards the end, and you're just like, is everything that I've been told up until now a lie? Like, what is happening? And it was just a very interesting read, especially psychologically. It was so strange, and all the characters in this novel are just horrible people, and they all have these sinister ulterior motives, and they're just manipulative humans. It's just such an interesting read, and that's what I really did enjoy about it, was the whole psychological aspect of everything, and just it's such an interesting book just on basic human nature. So that's why I would recommend it. The next book I listened to was a 4 out of 5 star, and that was This Lie Will Kill You by Chelsea Pitcher, and I loved this. This was such a fun and addictive read. It was great. So this book takes place 1 year after transfer student Shane died in a tragic car accident following a party. And 1 year later, 5 students receive a little black envelope inviting them to a murder mystery party for a chance to win a scholarship of $50,000. Juniper, out of everyone, is the most rational girl. She starts off being like, weird, I don't get invited to parties, so no. And then she opens it and reads it and she goes, did not apply to this scholarship, so this is weird. And then she's like, you know what, this date is also kind of weird. So she's very skeptical about it, and then she finds out that her ex-best friend Ruby is going, and she's like, oh, never mind, I'm a go now. And I'm like, why would you go? I would have said no, but no, all these characters said yes, because they're dumb. It was so fun because they get to this murder mystery party, and it is so like Clue, because they're all given these different white cards with different personas on them and their names and who they are, and they're all told to bring a weapon. Some of them are like legit weapons and some of them aren't. Watching them go to this murder mystery dinner and then find out, oh crap, we were invited here because someone is now blackmailing us and keeping us trapped inside this house to find out what happened 1 year ago to Shane and the truth behind his death. It was just so addictive. That's my best way to describe this book. Sure, it's very cliched. It kind of is a whole Clue meets The Breakfast Club kind of feel to it. It's a very character-driven storyline, and just seeing all the different point of views, everyone's motives behind what they did, their part in Shane's death, also the flashbacks to 1 year earlier when Shane first transfers to this town, and seeing kind of how everything came together. The reason why it's sort of 5 out of 5 star read is because it is very cliched, it's very predictable, but it was just so much fun and just such a great read that I really would recommend this to people. There is a trigger warning in this for domestic abuse, child abuse, murder, car accidents, grief, suicide, self-harm, suicide kind of thing. But yeah, so there are a lot of trigger warnings in this, but overall, I really did enjoy it. So my first 5 out of 5 star read was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I adored this book. So we follow Monique Grant, who is an aspiring journalist, and for the magazine that she's working for, Evelyn Hugo requests her to do an article. But when Monique gets to Evelyn's apartment, she finds out that Evelyn wants her to write her memoir. Hi, baby. So this follows Monique interviewing Evelyn Hugo from right before she became a big Hollywood starlet, but then chronicling her life throughout all of her 7 husbands that she had. And the reason why Evelyn is finally coming out with her story is because everyone that she's ever known or loved is now dead. But this is such a great book. I love the bisexual representation. Evelyn Hugo is bisexual. I have never ever read anything like this. I was very hesitant to listen to this book. I have heard a lot of great things about Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I'm just not someone who's really into this kind of adult contemporary book. But I was so pleasantly surprised, and honestly, I was so emotional throughout this. It was such an emotional, lustful, heartbreaking read. It was crazy, and Evelyn Hugo feels like a legitimate person to me. It is ridiculous how real Evelyn Hugo feels to me. At the end of the book, I was just like, I was left so starstruck and just with a loss for words by the end of this. This left me with a book hangover without a doubt. It was crazy and I adored it, and I definitely think there's going to be some people who do not like this and find it problematic, but that was not me. Yeah, I'm just so glad I read this. The next book I read that was 5 out of 5 stars, that was my middle grade read, and Jade over at Jadedreader loves this book. This is definitely her brand, and I'm so glad I listened to her. And that is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I love this book so much. So this book is about Morrigan Crow, and she is 10 years old and her 11th birthday is coming up soon. And on her 12th birthday it will be Eventide, and she is destined to die on this day because Morrigan Crow was born on the last Eventide, and children that are born on this day are cursed children, so everything that goes wrong in their town is blamed on them. Eventide ends up happening a year early, so on Morrigan's 11th birthday she is now destined to die instead. But Jupiter North sweeps in and whisks Morrigan off to Nevermore, the land full of whimsy and magic and just everything imaginable. And Jupiter North is the owner of the Hotel du Sillon, and he is also part of the Wondrous Society. And he wants to submit Morrigan as his competitor for the Wondrous Trials in order to become one of their new members. And so Morrigan now has to complete 4 trials against 500 other children in order to secure one of the 9 spots to be part of the Wondrous Society. So Morrigan is learning so much about herself throughout this book because, like I said, her entire life she's been told she's cursed, that she has no worth, that she's just, you know, this menace to society. And watching her grow and kind of learn that there is more to her, learning what friends are, learning what love is, not love as in romantic love, but love as in familial love, and kind of finding that she has a place in society and that people do care for her is just so sweet. And this was just such a fast and easy read. It's 460 pages. I read it in 2 sittings. One sitting I read 200 pages, the other sitting I read through the other 260. It was so quick and easy to read. I cannot believe how much I just blew through this book. There's just so much sarcasm and wit. We also have here on the front Fen, and she is a Magnificat, so she's pretty much just this gigantic talking cat who looks after the Hotel du Sillon, and I loved this all so much, and it was just so much fun. And oh my god, I had no idea. So in order to be part of the Wondrous Society, you have to have a knack, which is like a special talent, whether or not it's, you know, some people can turn invisible. Morrigan's best friend Hawthorne Swift is a dragon rider, but Morrigan's like, I don't have a knack unless it's just being some cursed kid. And when you finally find out what her knack is at the end, I was like, I did not see that coming. I did not see her knack coming, and I was like, that is such a good knack. The ending, finding out her knack is, brings everything full circle in this entire book, and it is so great. So thank you so much, Jade, for getting me onto this book. If you guys are not subscribed to Jade, please do, because I love it. And now, let's get to my final 5 out of 5 star read for this month that I am just going to gush about. My final book is The Devouring Grey by Lynn Herman, and this comes out on April 2nd, which is tomorrow when I'm filming this, but it's already out by the time this goes up because it's probably going up next week. But oh my god, I adore this book. If you saw my reading vlog, I was completely so happy to receive a copy of this. This is an ARC, and if you don't know what that means, it is pretty much an uncorrected advanced proof. And so thank you so much to Disney Hyperion, and thank you so much to Lynn Herman for giving me a chance to review this book, honestly. And honestly, I loved it. So The Devouring Grey takes place in Four Paths, New York. And this is a town that was founded by 4 families, the Carlyles, the Sullivans, the Hawthorns, and the Saunders. And these four founding families years and years ago trapped a beast in a parallel version of their town, and this parallel version is called the Grey. And the Grey is pretty much the forest that surrounds Four Paths. Present day, these four families throughout the bloodlines have carried down these magical powers that they got after trapping the beast in the Grey. We follow four characters, and that is Violet Saunders, who is brand new to town. She has no control over her powers and is very confused as to what is going on. Then we follow Justin Hawthorne, who is the golden boy of town. He failed his ritual in order to secure his power, so he is now powerless and is considered a disgrace to his family, but they are keeping it a secret from town so as not to ruin their reputation. We also follow Harper Carlisle, who failed her ritual 1 year ago, and after she failed her ritual, she was sucked into the Grey and was stranded there for 3 days fighting for her life, and when she finally did return to Four Paths in the real world, she had lost her left arm. And then we also follow Isaac Sullivan, who I adore. He is my baby. And we don't follow his point of view in this, but he is one of the four main characters. And during his ritual, things went horribly wrong. Half of his family members were killed and the other half fled Four Paths. And so Isaac is the only member left of his family in Four Paths, and he's considered the most powerful out of everyone. He has really cool powers. It's like really fun to like learn about them. He's so like destructive, but he's such a destructive person, but he means well. He's just such a broken little boy, and you just love him. And so it kind of follows the four of them banding together to defeat the Grey and find out how to control Violet's powers, because until she finds out what her family ritual is, she will have no control over her powers, and the Grey will keep getting stronger, and there is a threat of the beast being unleashed from the Grey and wreaking havoc on their entire town. It's a supernatural kind of book in that sense. It's so eerie and mysterious. The Grey is so creepy. It's just like a dead forest. The beast gets in your mind and kind of degrades you and kind of brings out your worst fears, and it also tempts you with your deepest desires, and it's just such an interesting concept in that sense. And then watching these four teenagers kind of learn who they are, and watching Violet come out of her shell and kind of come out of this immense grief that she's been under since her sister died is just so special to me. And I just adored all these characters. They have so many layers to them, and there's so much more to them than you thought. There are so many secrets of this town. The founding families are not what you would think. The beast is not what you would think. I have not read a book like this. I am completely obsessed with it. I'm actually driving 8 hours tomorrow, 4 hours up and 4 hours back, just to go see Christine Lynn Herman. There is a rhyme in here called The Founder's Lullaby that I want to read to you guys, because it really does set the tone for what this book is about. And I even sent this to Katie over at Katie's Book Nook, and then she went and bought the book after I showed her the lullaby. So I really want to read it to you guys because it is just gorgeous. Little children led astray, wandered through the woods one day, stumbled right into the Grey, never to return. In that place where nightmares dwell, only four have lived to tell. That is why we have to stay. Branches and stones, daggers and bones, they locked the beast away. Branches, stones, daggers, bones represents the four founding families and their powers. So the branches are the Hawthorns, the stones are the Carlisles, the daggers are the Sullivans, and the bones are the Saunders. And that kind of alludes to what their powers are, but I'm not going to reveal that to you guys because it's really fun learning all the powers of the families. We also have a lot of queer rep in this. Two of our main characters are bisexual. Some of the adults are even bisexual, which is really cool, and I really did enjoy that representation of it. Isaac is my baby. I love him to death. Watching his character growth in this is so great. It goes to show like I love this book so much. I love this book, guys. I love this book. Pre-order it. No, JK, just go out and buy it. It's already out. Just please, please, you will not regret it. Please. Please read this book. So those are the books that I read this month. If you guys have read any of these, let me know your opinions down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, please subscribe to my channel. And until next time, thanks a bunch, guys. Bye!